So I decided to change my name when I was flying from Massachusetts to Beijing. Oh, my slide, thank you. It's just a picture. There we go. That will make sense in a bit. So I decided to change my name when I was flying from Massachusetts to Beijing. I have no idea why I decided to do it, but as I was crossing the ocean, I suddenly decided I'm going to call myself Lexi from now on. It confused the people who I had started sitting next to on the plane, that when I disembarked, I started introducing myself to everyone as Lexi. It especially confused my parents when they came to visit, and I told them that they couldn't tell people my name was actually Lauren. But this was my first major decision I made at SYA. Throughout the next few years, and at the end of SYA, I changed the name again, back to Lauren, but I also made my screen name, my AAM screen name, for those who remember, ZM Bass, because I was convinced I was going to come back and be the ambassador to China. I did my senior thesis research in China, working with ethnic minority children. In 2008, I returned again to do HIV and AIDS research, where I was tracked by the government, had my research confiscated and ruined by the government, who didn't want me exposing the extent to which AIDS had affected the Henan region of China. And I eventually went to law school and found myself working with one girl who I called Joy, who we thought was living a pretty average life as an American teenager. She and I connected very quickly, mainly because we could both sing "我爱你爱着你就像老鼠爱大米." Okay, it's a Chinese pop song. Thank you, one person, for nodding. So we connected based on that, and she quickly began telling me that no, she didn't go to school. She actually slept beneath a restaurant outside of Route 9 in Massachusetts. And no, the people who said that they were her caregivers were not her aunt and uncle. They were actually the owners of that restaurant. And no, she couldn't afford to pay an attorney because she had a debt of $80,000 that had been placed upon her by the snakehead traffickers who brought her to the United States. And this was mind-blowing to me and to the attorneys I was working with at the time. And I thought, wow, this is crazy that this one girl went through this. And over the next few years, as I worked as an attorney, I found out that it wasn't just that one girl. It was hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese teenagers who were brought to the United States to work in our restaurants called Golden Dragon or China Buffet on the side of the road in pretty much every state across the country. And I decided to make it my goal to try to stop the human trafficking that was happening. And I would work with the young people in a lot of matters. I would talk to them about going to court and kill their deportation proceedings when we could. We'd get them into emergency foster care programs. But something was wrong and something was missing. And these kids would get their green cards or their T visas, which is for human trafficking survivors, and they would go back to the restaurants and they would go back to work, and they still did not feel that they had a sense of agency over their own lives. And when I was really talking to them about this, I realized that I, in a way, was no different from their traffickers. I was telling them where to come and where to be without explaining why. I said, these are the documents you have to bring, and this is what you have to do, and you have to do it. I wasn't giving them a choice in their own lives. I was placing my hopes upon them. So one of the things I think we learn at SYA is that there is no one way of being in the world. And if there's no one way of being in the world, then that means that the possibilities are endless. And if the possibilities are endless, that means that some of the possibilities haven't even been discovered yet. So I started working with young people from all over the world while I was doing my human trafficking work, including with 3 young women, Yari, Martina, and Lutfan, who you'll see in that picture. And we started saying, nonprofits don't have to be this way. Lawyers don't have to be this way. We can actually teach clients the law and put them in charge of their own cases. We can actually give the power to the people that we are purporting to represent. We started meeting in coffee shops until we'd get kicked out because we could all afford to have 1 cup of coffee. And we met at McDonald's because they didn't care as much, because we looked cleaner than some of the other people who were hanging out there for 12 hours like we were. And I had other jobs and they were in school, and we slowly began to build this thing called Atlas DIY, Developing Immigrant Youth. And what we're trying to do basically is change the way we look at nonprofits. It's insane to me that there are so many organizations that don't have a single member that they're helping on their board. it's crazy to me that lawyers will say, oh, don't worry about it, I'll take care of your problem. And so a young person walks away having no idea their basic legal rights, just knowing that that one person helped me. At Atlas, we're a co-op. All the young people run the space. They work at the space. They vote on our programming. Every 3 months, they elect whether or not I should be fired, which my funders are sometimes worried about. So far, so good. But if I'm not doing what's right for them, then I shouldn't be the one in charge, as we say. One of the things that Atlas has taught me the most is, again, that there's not one way of being. There's not one route to success. There's not one name that you have to call yourself. I can be Lauren and Lexi and Lan Lan. And I'm not here, a lot of people will say to me, like, okay, how do you in these roles, how do I not be a part of human trafficking? How do I not be a part of this? And the answer is you can't. And I mean, I know that's hard to think about, but by existing within this world, we do benefit from the exploitation, the slavery, the trafficking of others. And that's not our fault that we were born into this burdensome world where Black lives don't matter right now to a lot of people in positions of authority, where there are wars going on and genocide, and sometimes people living just down the street for us don't have enough to eat, but we don't have to accept that world the way it's been presented to us. We don't have to accept the way that nonprofits came to be just because that's how they were always done, and we don't have to accept the labels that have been placed upon ourselves, even if they were done so by loving parents and we eventually do return to those names. So I guess my message today is do wonders with that joyous burden that is being human, and don't accept things just because that's the way they've always been. Thank you.